Well, there is actually one that you two at once, yeah. It's on York Street.
Tiny little nondescript place. Yeah. Industrial.
It wasn't, I've been to other places, it was okay.
So one of the reasons I mentioned that is it's an experiment. Always there. Well,
You're still on that?
it's been 3 weeks, so I had this. I know people have enjoyed it once you turn 50. Kind of like hits the reset button. So I thought this was a good talk. So, I mean, I couldn't do it forever. I mean, he said no, it's occasional and on Instagram, you're actually going to get something.
Statisticians are just here for the food.
So, but the one, but you did the Almost Kitchen, right?
And then a bunch of statisticians. And then like a whole bunch of food.
I mean, they're vegetarian all the time.
It's a good thing
But
we
they
don't
have
start on
vegan Wednesdays. But you know, it's different in season.
It's been so long since I've been there, I need to listen to it.
Yes, it's really, I mean, I have to, because it's so unfamiliar, I have to go online and check it.
I'm going to be doing the video too.
Yeah.
But
I went there once, I don't think it's in the recruitment manager, but I went for lunch, and they said, hey, so to try that stuff.
right, yeah, they have a lunch buffet, and on Wednesdays their lunch buffet is vegan.
You get a front row seat here.
Snake on the inside?
Yeah, go on the inside.
The desk is the desk is nice part of the academic life. Yes.
Am I in the way if I come here?
No. How are you doing, bro?
Bill and Beth are here, so I guess we can start.
How are you? It's just so weird.
It's nice to end the week back in the office. Math
Yes.
all afternoon. Yeah, I was off every day. So nice. About 3 hours.
I know. I told my mom about it. Terrible. It's not. It's fun. It's just. In your busy day. I got a blue dress for
Welcome. It's nice to see lots of people coming in at the last minute. I guess others will just sneak in as they need to, but I do want to get started. We're only a couple minutes late here. I never get tired of telling the story of how we met Maria at the Atlanta meeting. So Steve and I are rooming together, and we're looking at abstracts of what we want to go see. And Steve said, "I'm going to this session on math and music, and there's this talk. It's theoretical physics, category theory, and musical composition. I got to go see that." Yeah. Oh yeah, that's good. I'm going to go see that one too. It's going to be a disaster. It's going to be really cool. We thought it was really cool, and so we introduced ourselves to Maria, and we said, would you be interested in coming and speaking to us? In particular, I was interested in how music can inform math education, and she'd done some interesting things in her talk that led me to that thinking, and she said, "Oh yeah, that'd be great." So it all worked out. And I want to thank Roger for supporting this, and Suzanne for doing all the hard lifting together here and everything. But Maria Mannone is a doctoral candidate at the University of Minnesota. She's going to finish. And she's finishing May 6th. Is that right? She's defending, and she has no fear. Here she's traveling a month before natural defense. She has no fears. She's she's fleeing, but she's also a gifted artist, and so she presented me with this. It's a sort of a synthesis of math and music, and I want to just pass it around so you can take a look at it. And she's from Palermo in Italy, so she brought a calendar with a beautiful cathedral of Palermo. So with that introduction, I think I'll just turn it over to Maria.
Thank you for being here. Okay.
Would you like to?
Yes, that's
too
right.
much or okay?
Okay, yes, I will cover. So thank you, and I'm very glad to see all of these nice presentations. There are a lot of interest through mathematics and music, not only like completely separately, but together. That's great because a lot of time when we ask people about what they think about art, they see art, in particular music, like the expressivity, the passion, the inspiration. But when we ask usually people about math, James Stewart in Vertigo by Hitchcock.
Yeah.
And so that's the feeling they have. So sometimes it's really hard to start. So I'm very happy when people, first of all, they don't start like escaping everywhere. So I'm not like giving excusing to the new students to listen to music during math class, not exactly about this. I will show you some example of my more recent work. I've been trying to connect some concept for category theory, continuity and discreteness, combinatorics, and also opera performance. So the point is, there are a lot of practice, styles, methods in art. Maybe it's possible to try to make a model, a mathematical, a more abstract model of these things that can be both descriptive of what musicians, artists do, but also prescriptive. So we can get ideas from science and make new artworks. Let's start with category theory. So I've been trying of not putting there a lot of too fancy stuff, too many diagrams. So we start with really something simple here, and so simple that we talk about pointed arrows. What? Okay, arrows symmetry. Okay. We have several examples of arrows in all the art history, from Greek work, from literature, from everyday life. Arrows are very important. From other stuff, from ancient Babylonian story, native history, other disciplines, and sport. So, where is music on that? By the way, these diagrams are about conductor and listener, a bit more abstract, maybe. Okay, the first point is that we can start from everyday activity of musical performers and try to start more abstract diagrams from them. Here you see some spectrogram, and the spectrogram are already in the field of science, acoustics, so it's nothing like too strange. In everyday performance, a musician can choose if making, for example, not vibrato singing or vibrato singing, and the same for example, flute. Remember, you are flute, so you know what is different. And I made this spectrum with my voice, but I'm not going to torture you with my voice. They are put together, it's not good, but the singer was a professional. She's a professional soprano. I don't know why it was sounding at the same time the flute. So the idea is that we have two different timbre, voice and flute. And so we can look to this diagram in this way: voice, voice, flute, flute. But we can also look vertically, not vibrato, not vibrato, vibrato, vibrato. It means that we can move that way or that way, and we get the same thing. So we have a commutative diagram, and we can. This transformation is pretty easy. It's just a change of articulation, what a musician can do easily. This transformation is a bit more hard, but we can suppose to have some program to change the spectrum and transform one sound into another one. So we can give meaning to these arrows and meaning to the entire diagram. That was the second flute example. But we can start making more abstract diagrams. Okay, let's see more detail this one. in this graph, I'm trying to represent a layer of sound, of gestures, and of visuals. Why gestures? When we start from a score, we have to interact with the musical instrument. So in the case of the violin, for example, there are specific movements to get particular sounds for the instrument, or in the case of the piano. Also in the case of voice, singers are trained to well use their phonatory system to make sounds. So the movements are very important, and they can be described as system of curve in space and time. So let's look here. This one is the former diagram we have seen. We have no vibrato voice, flute, and flute. Here, this is another community square, but it's given by the movements that the performers have to do to make this sound we have seen here before. For example, in the case of vibrato voice, of course we need a kind of vibrating movement of larynx. In the case of flute, we need some specific movement, vibrating diaphragm movement. That is different when we do not want to have vibrato. And again, we can connect this upper side of the diagram, so where we have the level of voice. So sound of the voice and the specific movement that we need to get sounds from voice. And down, we have this square, this other square here, another commutative square, and this is the flute. So we can ask if all these kind of diagrams are commutative. I pick up two classic examples. When you deal with acoustic instrument, usually you are composing and you don't want to be killed by the performer, you write things that the performers can do. So the diagrams are commutative. However, if you make some new sound, for example with electronics, it's not always possible that there is a physical acoustic instrument and a human performer that can make that kind of sound. So this diagram is commutative if we make good choices or like possible choices of sound. But the diagram is not ended yet. I have here two other layers. Straight line here, wave line here. Why? If we ask people, even if they are not musicians, to make a visual representation, the most part of them we draw a straight line to represent the sound without vibrato, and a wave line for the sound with vibrato. It seems, it suggests that maybe we can connect what we hear, the movement that the musician do, and the visual representation. And all of these three different layers may be connected through diagrams. Okay, now let's try to make something more abstract thing. Here I'm using a very simple idea from the formalismo to categories. It seems that what is a category? You have objects and arrows, like morphism between them, pretty general. But even when you have objects and arrows, all the set of objects and arrows can be seen as a category in itself. So you can have like nested structures. And you can have arrows between arrows, for example. Here, I think that most part of you are great musician too. So it's not like difficult thinking of different loudness level. Let's start from a piano, get mezzoforte, for example, so we can make a crescendo, change of loudness. But there is not only one way to make a crescendo, more than one. Let's say, for example, a slower or a fast crescendo. But we can imagine to have an arrow between them. So let's imagine to have a time operator transforming the slow crescendo into the fast one. This is pretty abstract, But it means that even if we deal with very simple, basic music, we already can have a lot of material for mathematical abstraction. How can we compose arrows? We can talk about horizontal and vertical composition. For the horizontal, this of course is just one example. There are a lot of ways to do that. We can start from the space of abstract, I made a mistake. It's supposed to be abstract gestures. Like that. Some points and some arrows. If you make that, this is a gesture. But you can imagine just one point in space, other point in space, and something connecting. So the abstract idea would be 2 points and the arrow between them. Let's imagine to have an abstract structure and a specific movement while we play piano. But we have the same structure to make a vibraphone playing. For example, you can imagine like that, a chord, but if you are playing the vibraphone, you can also make a similar movement, of course, with the instruments that you need. And again, there is not only one possible way to transform abstract things into real movements. We can have a gesture 1 and a gesture 2, and we can imagine a deformation between them. Let's say you have this curve. We can consider, for example, time and position, horizontal position in the keyboard, vertical position with respect to the keyboard. And we can another curve. We can imagine to transform the one into the other. And it's pretty general because the same idea can be applied to different musical situations. I'm talking about piano and vibraphone because they are pretty close, but you can do the same for a lot of different musical instruments. Of course, you have to well define the strict coordinates. In the case of violin, we had before some violin example. You can have, for example, the position of the fingers of the left hand and the pressure of the bow. And for voice, you can have, for example, the position of the larynx, the opening of the mouth. So you can define your space of parameters. Vertical composition. One possibility is combining loudness changes. For example, you can have a gradual change for piano to mezzo forte, or forte to fortissimo, or you can have only one arrow that is like making a huge change between them. And this is really musical because you can have a crescendo divided in different parts, piano, mezzo forte, forte, fortissimo, or you can have a huge crescendo, piano to fortissimo. And again, we see a pretty common musical situation and some mathematics behind. What about images now? Okay, it's pretty more complex. Now, I'm not at all psychology major, so I don't want to go deep into these kind of things. But when we compare different fields of art and we want to make something meaningful in all of them, maybe we can look at some psychology. There is a theory about the shape and how can we define the shape and how can we understand if a shape, an object, is only given by the sum of its part or something more. For example, here, this famous example, everybody sees a triangle that is not. There is no triangle. It's our brain that is making that. So we can use this Gestalt concept, this theory of shape, also to better understanding music. And there are some scholars that work in these fields, and they also use concept of shape and definition of shape, for example, to understand the grouping problem music. Here, you have two notes rhythmically closer, other one. So we see first and second as one unity and the other separated. But here, you have the rest in between, so you have a more homogeneous shape, and so on. There is another Gestalt experiment, pretty interesting, and also pretty old, it's like 1929. It's about the association between sound and visual. Here you have two words, no meaning, only sound, maguma and chakete. You have more explosive sound in chakete and more smooth sound in maguma. Here you have two draws, no meaning, only shape. A very famous experiment was about the association. If we ask people to make an association between this word and this visual, that's what we have. The most part of people associate the chakete word with a more angled image and the smooth word with this other more smooth shape. So, if there is something about psychology, it's like almost 1% of people making that, maybe there can be some stronger analogy between what we hear, what we see. And there are some scholars that made also analysis with spectrograms and analyzing our way to pronounce the sound and the shape. So let's go back to our topic. Now let's talk more about music. There are some other studies, 1968 approximately, about the perception of pitch and the space, localization in space. It seems that when we hear very high sound, our instinct is to look upward, low sound downward. And if I ask you to sing this one, I think that maybe you will try, we start making some low sound and then going up in pitch. It's pretty intuitive. There are also a lot of people in neuroscience working on that to investigate. And this is not depending from culture, from music style, from language, it's pretty universal. This is under the name of cross-modal correspondences. That's the new name for synesthesia, actually. Now, this is what I've been doing my first 2 years of PhD. I was working in the field of mathematical theory of gestures. The goal was making a general model, try to make some more general model that connects the symbolic layer of music. Here you see, for example, the conducting structure of movement and the sound. You see here conducting, playing, for example, violin, and the sound. I've also tried to apply these ideas to voice, because in the case of voice, we cannot see a lot of movements because voice is pretty inside, inner. However, if you go to some voice lesson, a lot of time voice teachers are giving visual images. They also suggest, make this movement to help you find the right position, or think of that. Think that the sound is here. It's not the sound there, of course, but somehow these analogies are helpful for learning and making the good choices. And we can also connect the world of musical performance and the composition, because we can imagine that the score is a collection of instruction from movement that we can translate into physical gestures. Vice versa, we can improvise and then writing down, transcribing our improvisation. There is another field where I've been working starting in 2008 about the translation of visuals into sound. There is not only one way to make that. In our first presentation, somebody talked about Xenakis too. There is also a wonderful system, the UPIC system, to translate two-dimensional images into sound. Here, I've been working with 3 dimensions. The idea is pretty simple. You have a three-dimensional space that correspond to loudness, chime, and pitch. Once we get an object, we can imagine to select some points of this object and to project into this space. In this way, we can have a sound representation of the shape. Of course, you have to choose what is your lower pitch and your higher pitch too, and also how many points would you like to take from this image. And this is, and this is the topic of my first book that nobody knows because it is in Italian. It's not online. It's pretty short, but yeah, there is. How to translate music into image and image into music. What I've been doing for my dissertation, it will be the topic of my dissertation in a couple of weeks. We can just connect these two approaches, gestures and mapping from visual to sound, if we see a visual shape as the result of a gesture. It's simple if you imagine of drawing. If you draw, you are making movement with your hands. And let's imagine to draw a leaf. This is the leaf. And this is the branch. And musical is pretty simple because if you get a melody for each leaf, your branch is given by transposition. For example, higher and higher and higher. And in this sense, we can connect this starting idea with Lindenmayer systems, because he was a scientist who was studying how to describe the growth of plants. And also there is a lot of nice math behind, and we can also translate its structure to describe how to generate a visual in this way. So, three-dimensional images can be seen as the result of drawing gestures. But we can apply this concept also to more complex shape. This is the case of a water lily. It's more complex because there is also, it's like conic shape, but we can imagine to represent that as a rotation. And I will give you more precise details on that later. How to make music from a leaf. Again, there is not only one way. I decided to try to start with the most simple things I can get. Try to find some mathematical function whose graph is like similar to the upper side and lower side of the leaf. For example, a sinusoidal function. And we can get some points out of the function and also there, and combining them. I used mathematical software for making that. It's pretty easy also to taking directly the notes and using them to compose music. But it was not only interesting to take these notes. It's very simple. It's also useful to use these notes as the starting point for some more complex composition. And one of the parts of the piece I've written for my dissertation. That's an orchestra piece with soprano and piano. I used a lot of these structures to make more variety in the piece. The piece is a fantasia and a fugue. In the fantasia, I used the classical transformation in counterpoint, like inversion, retrograde, and repetition of the subject, and counter-subject, and so on. But I also made some variation using visuals. For example, pam, 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 pam. This little segment is the head of the theme, or the subject of the fugue. But the notes inside the red circles are the notes that I found from the upper side of the leaf. You have C, G, B flat, G, and C, and I don't put here, but there are also the notes of the lower layer. And this is only the part of first and second violin, but I can play for you a very short sequence of the piece. The piece will be read next week. So for now, I'm so sorry, but I only have like the MIDI sounds, so forgive me for that. I was looking for the sound cable. Where the sound. It's better without. Okay. Okay, maybe it's better without the cable. Okay, now a completely random choice. That's from my town. Completely random. The botanic garden. And here, now we can talk in more detail about water lily. So, how can we make music from that? Let's start with a drawing representing the water lily. That is a complex shape. Several petals, not perfect symmetry, and so on. But we can simplify this image. And I brought here this model that I made only with paper. It's already a simplified version of the water lily. So maybe I can give it, you can pass it through. Because the concept is that we start from some complex shape, we made a simplified version, we made another even more simplified version. So once we only have lines, it's more easy to transform lines, system of lines, mapping them into music. And that's what I did. So that's the structure I actually put into music. That's a very simplified geometrical version of the water lily. But here you have some petals and some different instruments. The idea is the following. I choose the same melody for each one of the larger petals and the same melody for each one of the smaller ones. I've been changing the timbre, so the orchestration, to make more clear the variety. However, how to musically give the idea of rotation? So that was the challenge. For making that, I used the Doppler effect. So by little adjustment in pitch and loudness, we can have this illusion of movement. We will have the illusion of moving through these different petals. When you are here, you already start hearing the singer, but when you are in this point, the singer is louder and higher. When you move away from the singer, she will be softer and less high, lower in pitch. So I can play it for you. Again, it's a MIDI sound for the voice, so forgive me. Okay, and the same idea that also controls the circle. Another one. So like fancy animal, we have a penguin. Okay, this is some new ideas. It's already based on the same thing. What is in common between the penguin and the water lily? You can see some kind of modular structure between them. So it just is music. And as you know, the penguin, when he's afraid, he closes into a ball, and this is a ball. And again, you have a complex shape. So we can simplify. However, this time, instead of simplifying this shape, I tried to build this complex shape starting from something simple. So just on a scale. And then musically, we also can have a fragmental scale. When we make some transformation, like horizontal repetition, vertical repetition, shift of the even elements, change the envelope, and close it to the loop, we get the complex one. So, in the left side of the image, we have a sequence of instruction, visual. However, we can transform this instruction, you see the green lines, into musical instruction. Because if we have a musical theme, we can apply similar transformation to make musical variety. For example, we can repeat a sequence. We can, like vertical transposition, we can transpose the pitch, for example. We can shift in time. We can change the loudness. And we can make some transformation to give this idea of a loop, for example, repetition, whatever. And we start from visuals, we get music, but we can understand and study the structure in itself. Again, you have commutative diagrams, because you can start from the scale, getting the music, transforming the music. But you can also start from the visual, transforming the visual, and getting the music. The thing is that there is not only one way to make music from that. Because even given this structure, even if I suggest you to make into music the upper side of the scale, there's not only one way to make that. In this case, what is and where is the musical composition is the structure itself. Because you can write a score, you can improvise on the structure, you can also program, you can get a code that given this general sequence of instruction and given an initial musical sequence, you can get different things because you can change the starting musical sequence. You can change this first red arrow, that is the transformation from the visual into the sound. In this case, the composition is given by the method itself. And again, you can see, you can compose all these arrows, arriving at the final musical step, composing this side, and then transforming this one into music. An example, so repeat. With transposition simultaneously. With onset shift this time. And the loop section. Okay. I made this composition not by coding, but just writing. But I was not writing if I were composing a complete piece, but just following this sequence of instruction. Of course, we can also take a sequence of instruction as the general skeleton to make a piece, not only just as a sequence of path to follow. We can also, in principle, make whatever music, even some bones. You see here geometrical triangular structures that can be 3 notes, that can be, I don't know, 3 fragments of scales, whatever, and we can transform the one. So we can have a structure that is like repeated into a sequence of them, and we can change the envelope. So in principle, we can have an entire variety of different shapes that we can analyze under these ideas and convert it to music. But I did not make music of that. Next time. Okay, let's change a little bit topic about continuity and discreteness. So, classic example is the discrete instrument, the piano, and the continuous instrument, the violin. So, of course, also voice continuous. And they are nice examples to explain and teach the difference between discrete and continuous sound. we can make comparison between like stairs movement for the discrete and something come back. Here for the continuous movement. It's the same also for voice, of course. Okay, but the idea of continuous and discrete can lead us even to other things, even to movies. Because in movies, what we have a sequence of pictures, one after the other. By the way, this is not movie yet, this is chronophotography, so like before the time of movies. Here, this is a painting by Giacomo Balla, one of the futuristic painter, who was representing the movement of the hand of the violinist. It's similar to a sequence, a superposition of different pictures. It's like very similar to picture. And they were approximately at the same time. New developments in photography style, new developments in painting, and art taking ideas from new technology, new science. And we can also see some botanical structures, some plants, as examples of this modular repetition. In particular, we can imagine that a normal shape, plant, branch, leaves, are some kind of sample or sampling of a continuous image, like a sequence of discrete photographies. And using this concept, I put another variation in the same piece, the fugue, I was talking about. Here, the red and the blue square highlight two sequences corresponding respectively to the upper side of one leaf and upper side of the other leaf, just at this position. But we can connect them continuously. We can make that via glissando. That makes a bit of avant-garde effect. Okay, now we see another topics. This is about combinatorics. I got to this idea when I was studying at IRCAM in Paris. I remember some classes about mathematical combinatorics applied to music, something very detailed and complex. At the same time, I was trying to solve the Rubik's Cube. I was not able, never been able to solve the Rubik's Cube, so I started making music with the Rubik's Cube. And I got this idea. The cube harmonic. The thing is the following. You have a cube. In this case, I took the 4x4x4, and in each side, you have a harmonic sequence. So each little square is a note. This one, C, E, G, C, is a chord, and 1, 4, 5, 1. This is a chord sequence. In each side, I put a different style chord sequence, like two classical sequences, one twice from jazz, one for all the music, and so on. The thing is that when you start scrambling the cube, you get different chords, different sequences. Some of them will be nice, some of them will be not, and so on. Recently, I've also been working prototyping, because this one is just a nice mathematical image made with computer, but I've also working prototype of that. The problem is that it was pretty large, not so nice to bring with me in the plane. So I'm working also with the engineer, try to make something smaller, because it also still playing sound. You push the key, you hear the sound, but smaller. This idea is also described in a chapter about group theory and permutation in a book, Cool Math for Hot Music. I'm one of the co-authors of this book. Okay, now let's go to the last topic of this little presentation about opera performance. And when we think about opera, maybe we don't think about it. I wonder if some of the romantic scene of opera, people are still like romantically talking about the questions. No. We can start composing with that. Okay, but at least without this equation, there would not be music. So we need that equation. Okay, the thing is the following. I've been trying here to make a model, simplified again model, of what singers have to do to make a good opera performance. First of all, they look at the score, and let's say we have two different musical sequences that can be two different chords, two different tonalities, some structurally important and different. We can have a way to connect them, let's say a sudden connection between them, or a more gradual, smoothly change. For example, we can have one chord and then another completely different, or we can have a sequence of chords with little by little changing the one into the other. We can compare them. Again, we can use the formalism of arrows between arrows, and we can imagine an abstract transformation, transforming this sudden change into a more gradual change. And the idea is that the same abstract structure can be applied to all layers for opera performance. We need vocal gestures. We can write a score. We need a singer that is able to shape his or her phonatory system to get the specific sound. So we can have a sudden change, for example, from a timbre to another, from a range to another, and the people that are singers can confirm. So, but we can also have a more gradual change. It depends by the composer, by the written indication. It can also be a different choice of the performers, like for expressive reason. You can make a huge contrast of a more smooth and less change between sequences. Again, we can transform the one into the other. And of course, we have connection between musical sequences and the vocal inner gestures. Singers also have to deal with words, and we have again the same structure, and again the same structure for hand gesture. Why they are important? As I said before, a lot of time also voice teachers try to drive their students by using gestures. Some other time gestures, hand movements have an expressive reason. If they are making this one or this one, it's not only a matter of helping the singing, it's also a matter of acting. And in this sense, they are connected with words. Words meaning hand gesture. But we, of course, we have connection given by the composer between musical sequence, words, between vocal gesture, hand gesture. So we get here a lot of arrows in this diagram. But each singer, and not only opera singers, of course, has to deal with all these different layers. And my point is that I think that a good performance is a performance where you have a good connection between these points. You don't have contradiction, or if you have contradiction, they are precise choices, expressive choices of the performer. Now let's see an example. Let's travel to Firenze in Italy, and let's see some example from the opera Gianni Schicchi. Gianni Schicchi is an opera from a topic of Dante's Divine Comedy, Divina Commedia, using Giacomo Puccini, a libretto of Gioacchino Forzano. What is the plot? We are in the Florence, Firenze of 13th century, and there is a very rich family and a very rich man who is died, but in his will nothing is given to the family, but everything to other people. For example, to the friars, to other people. And this guy, Gianni Schicchi, disguises himself as the died man to officially help the people of the family to take the will, to take all of the money, of the houses, and so on. However, he was pretty smart, and he gave to the other people of the family a small part, of the goods, and the most part he took for himself, also to allow his daughter to marry the son of that famous and old family who is not okay with this marriage. So the marriage was possible thanks to this kind of trick that Gianni Schicchi made. So in the opera is a very important point, the area when Gianni Schicchi describes what he's gonna do. Okay, I'm gonna to take the role of this guy, I'm gonna change his voice and so on. I'm gonna pretending of being Boso Donati, that was the guy died before. And there are a lot of musical important passage that several singers highlight through the change of vocal timbre, the movement, and so on. I will in particular make a little comparison between two famous baritones, Tito Gobbi and Leonucci, and then between two singers, two very good students at the University of Minnesota. This is the passage. I also put here an English translation of the sequence. This is one of the most important areas of the opera, when Gianni Schicchi describes what he's gonna do. So, again here we have some graphs and diagrams. The thing is that I'm only considering here hand, words, and musical cues. The thing is that in this very effective performance is known as the best performer in this role, is also a mix of acting and singing. When you say between the cup and the little blanket, first of all it's like the hand above this movement of the hand and the slow movement on the face. In music, there is a correspondence between the staccato and the legato, the second part. So we have a correspondence of position of the hand, meaning of the words, and articulation of music, and kind of movement of the hand and movement of the hand in the two parts. You can see here staccato, and more connected. Yes. When he says, at the place of Bozo, that is me. So Bozo was the dead man. He's saying, I'm changing his role. So it's a very important point. In music, we have an excuse here. We have a diminuendo, then a forte, and a chord change in this place. So it's something important for the meaning and for music. And each singer here is making something, but it will be different, but you have to take into account this point. A nose that seems to be that one of Bozo, but the nose will be mine, because this is me. And you can hear the change of notes, and chords correspond also io, that is me, and also this closing movement. And again, when we say that is me, the schicchi, the family name, in Italian, this is pretty high pitch family name, schicchi. So the instinct is to raise the movement in the mouth inside, but he also make a gesture that is, especially in Italian culture, into idea. I got an idea, like so, and everything is raising in this position, even the eyebrows. So you have the correspondence between pitch of the vowel, meaning, and also the movement that it's doing. So you can read the diagram this way. So a neutral movement of waving for the io, and I call it hypergesture when I combine more gesture together, like one inside the other. And here, the quick opening of the hands, that it corresponds to the emphasis from schicchi, and here the emphasis. And again, the same structure of diagram. Okay, if we take another singer, Leonucci is another very famous baritone. He's still alive, and he has he's 75 and still singing in opera. Yes, very strong voice. He wanted to make a difference because everybody was like trying to imitate the performance of the other singer. So he tried to make something different. And instead of like opening, oh, I'm so smart, I got the idea. He just moving forward, make a different thing. He's not so happy of mocking the people of the other family, but it's more like dramatic. In his role, Leonucci is like out of the role as a tragic hero describing this thing. And the thing is the following, make a lot of this movement that is very strong, like this is I say that, I make that, everybody will do what I want. In the big point, when he's explaining all the stuff, it's not to make it, oh, this is the idea, but it's just like releasing this tension. There is this tension, but in 2 points, when he says, there is me, the schicchi, now he explains, so everybody knows, and less tension here. And another point is when we have a change of cadence, when the singers say, I'm falsifying in myself that other guy. And in music you have a cadence to F minor, almost to the end of the piece, not yet. And where the first singer is little by little changing the voice, the timbre, because it's starting to enter inside the other character, as you can see here. Changing the timbre too. The other singer is changing very little the voice because it's still external to this role all the time. And again, this is another releasing movement. So the waving of the closed fist and then releasing the tension. you see the change of timbre is very smooth. It's not completely inside. Okay, I just want to end with a short citation of the production, because we had a production of both Gianni Schicchi and another operas for Angelica at University of Minnesota. And our singers were these two guys. One of them is American, the other one is from South Korea, both great singers. And of course, their native language is not Italian. I was working with them also with Italian diction. It's pretty nice, interesting. And what they were doing, there are two main points. Of course, the director was the same, but they still made something a little different. In the important point, when the singer says, in the head there is the cup, on the face there is the little blanket, the singer is using the rest to make the movement. It's like he's explaining, then make the movement. So there is not a cue in the same time of music, but using the rest. That is also a musical choice. A similar thing is made by the other singer, but by using the last syllable. And again, but also our singer made this important point, made evidence on the cadence to 4 when they say, I'm falsifying myself, Voso Donati. And this time they're not neither saying, oh, I make that, or I make that, but they have, first of all, the arm opened and then the close. Unfortunately, I don't have video recording of this performance yet, but it was very interesting to see that this closing movement had the meaning of making the association between that person and me. And again, they are highlighting in a different way the same point. So we can still use this diagram. So the final thing is that maybe we can use some ideas from mathematics also to compare, to understand, and to highlight some elements of musical performance. And for example, we can also compare one artistic choice with other one, and also here. So we have a pretty general scheme representation that we can apply in different fields, and we can also maybe, hopefully, use these ideas to suggest, to make new ideas for performances, and still keep creating new work. Thank you for your attention.
Do we have any questions? Comments?
Yeah, are you going to, I mean, this sounds really, really interesting, especially when you teach young children. Yeah, so are you actually applying your theory and knowledge to teach the young kids with this things? Have you done some of the experiment with the kids yet?
That's very interesting. Not yet.
Oh, not
I've
yet.
been teaching kids piano playing, including autistic children.
Right.
In this case, you have completely also showing the method. So it's very important also to try being creative when you teach. Not yet in these things. I've been talking with several undergrad students, also with no knowledge in mathematics, also to see if everything was like clear and so on, to see how they reacted. But that's a very good idea. So
Yeah, I really think that, from all the ages, let them see this flower can, there's music there, and there's some arts. That's going to be remarkable education for them. And of course, adults like us too, but let's start only.
Teachers use a lot of gestures too.
especially in music. Sometimes it's hard because in the score we have only the starting point, but we don't have any structure like raise your hand, moving to your leg. You have to know. So you have to know how to play your instrument like that. And that's the point. But when you are learning how to play the instrument, you need to watch your teacher to try to imitate somehow. It's not always easy because there is also the temptation to completely imitate your teacher and being like a copy of the teacher. It's not good. You're gonna make your own performance, but to make your own performance, you need a technique. So there are a lot of spiritual problems. So maybe that would be helpful also apply these things to music practice, education, and also trying to introduce some abstract way of thinking, as you said, also to kids, because it can be abstract, but it's not like enough deep abstract level as category theory can be, and it's not really complex music, still somehow simplicity, so they can use the images, they can use the arrows, and they can start thinking in a more abstract way. So I'll guide you for thinking. That's a good wish, maybe.
A lot of interesting things happen in math when things don't commute.
Yes.
Just what does that mean in your scheme when you follow this arrow, this arrow, this arrow, and they don't end up in the same place? I mean, we speak of, well, commutators, right, all the time.
Yes, yeah. Yes, because sometimes I cannot commute. I pick up some, because my interest